yeah, this is easy conversation. We're talking about like just the industry in general, and what makes it unique to all of us or special to all of us. Like what kind of got us into it. It's gonna be different, right? Like yours is a family business.
Yeah.
You're in a unique situation with a veteran-owned company that only veterans can own, which is super cool. But for me, when I got into the industry, I really felt like coming from a corporate environment like this just felt home to me. Like, the people that I was hanging around, the people I got to interact with, I was like, this is where I want to be. Like that stuffy stuff in an office, no offense to corporations, some people love it, but it just wasn't for me. And I find that to be the case for a lot of people in construction. It's like, there's just something about it. You can't put your finger on it, but like something connects all of us. That's like the common ground that we all find in this industry. And like, how do you stay passionate about it? Well, there's some things that like really connect us to it. And so for me, it's always been the people, like that connection, and like being able to see myself and those people that are around me. And then it's, the creation of things. It's like being able to solve people's problems, stuff like that. And so what is it for you that makes the industry unique? What makes you passionate about it? Maybe how did you get into it in the first place?
The way I got into it, I would, ever since I got my MBA, which was about 10 years ago, I've been looking to go out on my own. So it took a while. I started looking at franchises and kind of going that route. I had some family that did 7-Eleven, so I was looking at that. Just the amount of capital and everything required kind of put me out of that. And I just stumbled upon G-Force, veteran-owned. So I looked into it. Pretty low cost, entry barriers and stuff like that. And I'd been in corporate America for a long time. And you've said it before, I just want to be close to the checkbook, just run my own deal, and got into G-Force, and that was in 2020. So since then, I've opened up 2 other locations. So I do parking lot striping and epoxy floors. So just being able to control my own destiny, and it's really what I'm.
So it's a unique thing because I've been to the G-Force National Conference, which is pretty cool, man. You walk into a room full of guys that I never served, and I tell Jeff this all the time. So like my passion to want to help veterans comes from, you kind of feel that guilt of like, I had people in my family that served, but I didn't. What's that camaraderie like, amongst those owners, like kind of having that thing in common? And by the way, all veterans are not the same people. Like there's still personality differences, but there's also another layer of common ground there that's really interesting. And I love being in that room, man, because it's some of the best dudes that I've met in this industry. So how does that feel from the inside?
Yeah, you've seen it. We get along really well, and
almost too well sometimes, huh?
Yeah, that is true. But like if I have any issues come up when I was starting out on the jobs, I could just phone call away, and they would help me out. And so now I'm in that position. We got new guys coming on. They can call me. We'll walk through any problem, get them through it, help them. Whether it's diagnosing their machines, something's not spraying right, or whatever, we're there for them. So
yeah, it's awesome, man. How about you? What makes you passionate about the industry? How'd you get into it? You just got shoved into it, right?
Well, kind of, not really. So I started in high school just because one of my friends got a job doing asphalt, and he was like, "Hey, man, you want a job?" And I was like, "Sure thing." And what's funny is I actually think all 3 of us are veterans.
Yeah.
So I took a break, did my service in the Army. And then I came back, and by that time, Shane Brandt married my mom, and then I kind of just fell into it. Fell right back into it after the service. So it's been fun. One of the biggest things is staying out of that corporate world. I like being able to. I want to be my own boss someday. I like saying when I can go home. I like seeing what money I can make that year and things like that. So
that's awesome, man. What do you find? So, being a veteran, kind of having that camaraderie, do you feel that like kind of same feeling in the industry a little bit?
So yeah, we actually do have one other veteran that works with us, and him and I do connect on a different level. But I'm actually still in the National Guard, so I'm an active duty veteran, but I'm still in the National Guard, and so I still have that camaraderie there too. But that's kind of cutting into work time though too. So
we gotta sell this guy a franchise. That's a lead right there, bro. That's a lead right there.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. And how about you, bro? You're second generation.
Yeah.
I've gotten, and it's funny, I got to know your dad now through content, right?
Yeah.
Online, and just a cool dude, man. I always say like that Massachusetts accent, man. You say anything, it just sounds a little cooler than anybody else. But what is it? I know that this business is very near and dear to your heart. You and your brother are very passionate about it. I think your dad set an amazing example.
Yeah.
Of what work ethic looks like, what running a good company looks like. But what is it that makes you feel most connected to the industry? Because you've watched this since you were.
Yeah, for sure. It was something I said I'd never do, ever. Joe and I both will never do what our dad does. And I think once the business started to grow and, obviously, money attracts, we saw the potential of what we could make. And once we realized, operating a business, like that goes away real quick. So then it truly is a passion. Would I do what I do now if I wasn't involved with my brother, my dad? I don't know, but I know that like when we get together, like our passion fuels us. And that, it's turned into a love of the industry. It's a very challenging industry. But yeah, it's just the connection that the three of us have. We're, most of the time we're all aligned, and then it usually turns out pretty well.
Yeah, I always laugh about that. I get the pleasure of working with so many different family businesses, in TCS, and one of the unique things is like we all have trouble. Like if I've got to tell somebody here bad news, like I love Tyler. I don't want to tell him anything bad, right? And I don't want to have tough conversations. It's inherently, I think, in all of us, and so. Then I watch that multiply when it's a brother or a father.
Yeah.
Right? Because the conflict is actually painful. Like, it's painful anyway, but then it's exponential if it's your dad or if it's your brother. And so it makes leadership, that much more difficult. What do you think the hardest thing about leadership for you is?
I'd say asserting it, because like you said, it is difficult.
You're a big softy?
Sometimes. Sometimes. No, it is. That's definitely a challenging thing, dealing with, because that at the end of the day, you go home, you talk to your spouse. Well, that spouse could be my sister-in-law. That spouse could be my mom. So it's like, it's a challenge, and we want to. We were saying earlier, like we don't have conflicts that go past, 4:00. Like we always wrap everything up and we shake hands, and most of the time we're having dinner together. Our kids are all there at our parents' house, and kind of like the buck stops here at the door. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody sits in a leadership position, whether they have it, in their title or not, or kind of what their role is. Like we're all leaders. What's the hardest thing about leadership to you?
I'd say just because I don't know. I'd say I'm a natural born leader. That's why I promoted pretty fast in the Army. And next month, I actually have to go to a month-long leadership school. So it is kind of taught to me, and it is natural for me. I'd say the hardest thing right now and every day is figuring out when to assert myself as a leader.
Yeah, the good news is you got plenty of time to figure it out, and that's usually what it takes, right? A little trial and error. How about you, man?
I would say empowering people and letting them do their job, because as a business owner, it's kind of your baby, and you're handing it over to someone, and just getting the right people in place, letting go of that fear, and letting them do their job. So
yeah, I would agree, man.
Yeah.
It's sometimes you don't realize your own love for what it is that you're passionate about or what you built, and for me sometimes it's like you do got to check yourself and realize like not everybody looks at it the way you do. Not everybody is, at the same level of passion. If they were, they'd be a business owner. They'd probably run you right over, right? And so it's like finding that balance of, how do you hold people accountable? How do you push them to reach their own dreams, not yours, right?
Yeah.
It's like, and one of my rules is like the vision of the company has to keep expanding because it has to be big enough to fit everybody else's dreams within it, right? And if we don't keep creating that, if we don't keep expanding and growing and creating opportunities, then eventually we don't become leaders, we become followers, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a wrap, boys.
Good.